Hello, my loves. Johanna Burkhardt here. If you're new to me, I'm a spiritual teacher and healer. If you've been a longtime member of my community, hello. I hope you're doing well. Just going to give it a minute and allow for people to get notified that I am live. I am coming live at a very a time that I don't usually. But when you are watching this, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know how you're doing. And if you're catching the replay, just hashtag it replay. And where you're watching from. So today I want to talk about exiting the matrix and creating the reality that we actually want to live instead of the heavy, dense 3D world that a lot of people still currently live in, right? And I'm going to use a very personal story that happened today that allowed me to see just how easily and how quickly it is to fall back into the old patterns and routines. And I'm somebody who is very self-aware, and I teach awareness. I teach the stages of awareness and awakening, and I do all these things, and I still find myself having opportunities to either reinforce the old paradigm, the old way of being, the old 3D, slow, heavy struggle reality, or choosing to exit the matrix at that time and create the reality that I want. And that's what I want to talk about today. So a lot of times people ask me, I thought that I healed this and this is showing up again, right? Kind of like a Groundhog Day routine where no matter what you do, the same thing shows up a different way maybe. And you're like, I thought I healed this wound. And for me, that wound is not being supported. And that's something that I've spent a very long time working on. And I believe that I have healed it. However, today an opportunity presented itself, and I found myself very easily shifting into the way that I used to be, right? Shifting into too much, too fast, too soon, reacting, I should say, to trauma, the trauma of not being supported. And I had to exit very quickly, and I had to gain clarity. And I did. And I want to share that method with you. I want to give you a little bit of insight to some of the things that I teach and how I personally use them. So for those who follow me and know me well, they'll know that I'm trying to transition my son into unschooling and moving him out of the public school system. So I've been doing a lot of research, and it's a lot of information. It's a ridiculous amount of information. And each state has different rules. And what I noticed today about myself is as I was doing this research, it was becoming overwhelming. It was so much to figure out. And I felt this pressure to have it all be done by a certain time, right? So that I could just get it figured out, and I could put it all in this pretty little box, and we could get on with it already, right? And it was just so much information. I was getting very overwhelmed. And I started thinking about, how am I going to show up in my business if I have to homeschool my son? How am I going to have time for myself? How am I going to have time to still be a supportive wife? How am I going to have time to still take care of the household needs? And what I was doing in those moments is I was falling into the old programming of everything is my responsibility, that I am responsible for doing everything, for cleaning the house, for cooking all the meals, for doing all the things, right? And the truth is I'm not. But I was beginning to feel that weight. And all of a sudden, it was too much, too fast, too soon. And I started reacting from the wound. My trauma alert system was screaming at me, you're not supported. You're not going to be supported. This is going to be all on you. It's going to be so heavy. Your business is going to fail. Your relationship, your marriage is going to fail. It's all going to blow up in your face because you decide to take on this responsibility. Do you see how easy it is to go down that rabbit hole? And so I did what I teach, right? I sat my butt down on my meditation pillow, and I didn't go into meditation. I sat with myself, and I connected to my body, and I felt into my body, and I said, what do you need from me right now? And my body said, get out of the house. And so that's what I did. I got in my truck and I started driving around. And as I was driving, I began to gain clarity that I was creating the future story, that I was so in my head about how everything was going to play out, reacting to that old trauma, to those old wounds of not being supported and not creating a structure to support myself, right? That I was creating a story of it's going to be too much. I'm not going to have the time in my business that I desire. I'm not going to have that time for myself that I desire or my relationship. I created a whole story, a whole dream in my mind of how it was going to play out. Now, the longer I stayed in that dream or that story, and the more emotion I fed that story, the more real it would have become, right? Because we think a thought, we create this scenario in our mind, we attach emotionally. That's what attachment is emotion. We attach to it, we give it meaning, and then we react based off of that emotion, that meaning. We react, we create action from that emotional space. Therefore, we manifest. Because manifesting is taking energy and creating it into form. And energy starts right here, right? And we give it this emotion, we give it meaning from our heart space, right? We feed it, and we're either feeding it unity and love and wisdom, or we're feeding it that egoic attachment, that role, the heaviness from our trauma, from our wounds that live within our body. So I could have easily stayed in that story and created that story. And as I was driving, I was like, wow, I'm really glad I listened and sat with myself and decided to go for a drive and gain that clarity and realize I was creating that scenario. And because I had that awareness, right? So now what do? How do you exit that? Well, I had the awareness that I was creating that story. Because I had the ability to create that story, I have the ability to create the story that actually works for me, a story that supports me. I have the ability to create a story that is supportive, that allows me to thrive in my business. In fact, to thrive more because now I can travel, right? I can travel more. I can do more because I'm not limited to a school year and school hours. It can be done on my terms, right? And instead of seeing this as another obstacle and another hindrance and another responsibility, I can see it as an adventure, and I can see it as a chance to connect more with my child, and for both of us to tap into our inner children, right? Because he's still a child. So I can tap into my inner child, and together we can create and learn our own way. See, I can choose to create a story that fits my reality of choice, that allows me to thrive. Because in the 5D and beyond, in the quantum world that we all live in, whether you're aware of it or not, right? There is no time, and everything is creatable. Everything is creatable. Everything already exists, and we're just aligning with that frequency to pull it in. And because I can create the limited scenario and the heavy one, I can surely create a light and expansive one as well. And then I can feed that story. I can feed that from joy and allow that to expand and become my reality. So we're always choosing. And I was so thankful and appreciative that I went through this experience today, because I could see, man, all of this work that I have done and all of this work that I teach, I was able to I was able to shift quickly and shift that story from heavy and creating more obstacles and more problems and more miscommunications and more emotional meltdowns in the future, to light, supportive, expansive, exciting, adventurous, all in a matter of hours, instead of days, instead of weeks, instead of months, instead of repeating it over and over and over again. And this is how we shift. So you can continue to take courses and learn all the things and get all the healings, right? But as I'm teaching the girls in Soul Flow experience right now, which is all about embodiment, is that's great. We've learned a lot of information, but it doesn't do us any good if we don't put it into action. And we don't communicate with our bodies and with our inner children and create the reality that we actually want. Because you're always creating your reality. So is it going to be heavy and dense and limited and restrictive and painful, or and lack filled, like filled with lack and limitation? Or is it going to be abundant and expansive and adventurous? How are you going to choose to create your reality? This is how you exit the matrix, right? Because just as we dream at night, we do the same thing during the day. We create our reality based on how you're using all the pieces of yourself. Your body, your very unconscious, trauma-filled body, your inner child, your heart center, also filled with a lot of the wounds and limitations of your current life. And your ego, the one that identifies and gives meaning and roles. How are you using these parts of yourself? How are you aligning them to create your reality? This is how we exit the 3D matrix and we enter into the quantum world of living on our terms and creating the life that we want, because we are the creator. We are a creator of our reality, period. Hi, Jade. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. How do you see this in your life? How do you see, or does this conversation allow you to see how you have created some painful or limiting or strugglesome experiences in your life? And can you go back to the drawing board? And you can say, well, if I created that story, if I created that vision of how something's going to turn out, because I'm stressing about it and worrying about it and being resistant to it, can I go back to the drawing board and say, well, if I can create anything I want, how would I want the scenario, the situation, 2020, the future, whatever, how would I like it to be? Can you feed that? I would love to hear from you guys and know how this conversation can shift you. Okay. Short and sweet today. So I love you guys and thanks for tuning in. And I will be back next week. Bye.